The girl I was supposed to marry, my childhood sweetheart, fell in love with a kid from the wrong side of the tracks and swore she'd marry him or no one. She was even willing to be cut off from her family all to be with him. She said what they had was true love. I gave him my blessing and promptly left the country for grad school. Years later, she came back to me in tears, asking, "Can we go back to how things were?" I had just gotten back to the States, and my friends insisted on throwing me a welcome home party. I knew exactly what they had in mind, so I led them to my old haunt, a private racetrack just outside Los Angeles. After a few exhilarating laps, I felt the rush of my younger, more reckless days returning. My friends crowded around as I got out of the car. "Damn, Leo, you've been gone for years, and your driving's only gotten sharper." I shook my head, feigning modesty. "Nah, I'm rusty." As I turned, I saw her, Ava Hayes, standing a short distance away. I frowned and turned to my friends. "What's she doing here?" My best friend Chris scratched his head and gave me an apologetic smile. "She heard you were back in town today and wanted to stop by. Say hi." Ava and I grew up together. We were part of the same tight-knit circle, but our connection ran deeper. We were the designated couple, the ones everyone assumed would end up together. I used to think I was the luckiest guy in the world. I got to go through school with a girl I loved, grow up with her, and one day walk down the aisle with her. But that all changed the day Ava knelt before my parents crying and begged them to let her out of our engagement. She told them I was just a friend, that she had never loved me that way. She said she couldn't stand the thought of marriage that reeked of money. It had to be about two people truly in love. With those words, Ava turned my family into a citywide joke and jolted me back to reality. I convinced my parents to call off the engagement with the Hayes family. Our families drifted apart after that. The ties severed. Soon after, I left for London to get my master's. Today was the first time I'd seen her since. She looked almost the same as she did 5 years ago. Though she now carried the polished confidence of a mature woman, it was as if time itself had a soft spot for her. I shot a questioning glance at my friends, but they all threw their hands up, pleading innocence. Ava smiled softly and approached, expertly handing me a glass of bourbon. I hesitated for a second. She remembered, it was a little ritual of mine. After a race, I took the glass. "Thanks." Ava leaned against the table beside me, her smile easy. "After all these years, why are you suddenly being such a stranger?" She acted so familiar, so casual, as if the past had never happened. I couldn't figure out her angle. I kept my voice even and searched for a neutral topic. "I was overseas when you got married. I never had the chance to congratulate you." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small box. "This is just a little something I brought back from my travels. If you don't mind, consider it a belated wedding gift." Ava's expression froze, her eyes fixed on me. "Leo, are you still upset about me calling off the engagement?" I was genuinely confused. What did that have to do with anything? "That's ancient history," I said coolly. "There's no point in bringing it up. I moved on a long time ago." She gave a sad little laugh and opened her mouth to say something else. But our friends swarmed in, saving me from the conversation. "Leo, my man, tell us what the girls are like in Europe. How do they compare to the ones back home? Spill it. You got a girlfriend over there?" Ava stood quietly to the side, listening to the chaotic chatter. "Dude, I heard you even competed against some pros in Europe. You've really made a name for yourself." When the topic turned to racing, Ava chimed in with a soft laugh. "I actually saw that race. I was there. You're a much smoother driver now." The group fell silent, and all eyes turned to her. She didn't seem to notice, casually tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I was in the area for a business trip. When I heard you were competing, I decided to check it out." She raised her glass in my direction. "Congratulations, Leo." "Thanks," I said, my face unreadable. I immediately changed the subject. "How come you came alone today? Didn't bring your husband?" We were all classmates after all. A flicker of something annoyance crossed Ava's face. She answered in a clipped tone. "His company's been really busy lately. He's stuck at the office working overtime." She sounded like she was talking about a stranger. I found that odd. Weren't they supposed to be inseparable? The picture of passionate love, but it was their business, not mine. Just as we started walking toward the lounge area, we saw him sitting there, waiting of his husband, Ryan Miller. This was not the Ryan Miller I remembered. The first time I saw him, he was wearing a plaid shirt. He was rail thin, clearly malnourished. The only striking thing about him was the fierce intelligence burning in his eyes, which seemed out of place with his shabby clothes and awkward demeanor. Our teacher introduced him as a full-ride scholarship student from some forgotten town in the Central Valley. His family had nothing. The school had waived his tuition and housing and given him a generous stipend just to get him. For kids like us who'd never had to worry about a thing in our lives, he was a curiosity. Only Ava raised her hand. "Teacher, the seat next to me is empty. Why don't you have Ryan sit here?" The teacher nodded, pleased, and told all of us to learn from Ava's example and help the new student feel welcome. And just like that, Ava and Ryan became desk partners. I was jealous at the time. There were so many empty seats. I complained to Ava, who was already my girlfriend. "Why do you have him sit next to you?" She just laughed and tapped me on the head. The teacher told us to help him out, and you need to help too. I mumbled a non-committal agreement. I thought she was just saying it, that a pampered princess like her wouldn't know the first thing about taking care of someone. But I was wrong. She took it to heart. Her family's cook was instructed to pack an extra breakfast for her to bring to Ryan every morning. She, who despised gym class, never missed a single one because Ryan was there. I only learned about all of this later. Gradually, I started noticing that Ryan was always by her side. But I never imagined that the quiet, cautious boy from back then would turn into this. The man walking toward us was dressed in a tailored suit that couldn't hide his punch. His face was fleshy. The sharp features I remembered now softened into a prosperous roundness. He saw a group and his face lit up. He strode over, his eyes landing on me. He froze for a second, then a wide smile spread across his face as he extended a hand. Leo, long time no see. I ignored his outstretched hand and gave a curt nod. Hello. Ava's brow furrowed the moment she saw him. What are you doing here? She demanded, her voice dripping with annoyance. Ryan walked over to her and wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close in a possessive gesture that seemed aimed directly at me. He turned his attention back to Ava, his voice syrupy sweet. Honey, I ordered a new car from here. The manager called and said, it just arrived, so I came to pick it up. Then he grinned at our group, puffing out his chest. Hey, everyone, I'm tight with the manager here. If any of you are looking to buy a car, just drop my name. He'll give you a 20% discount. A friend behind me snorted with laughter. Ava's face darkened. My friend couldn't hold it in. Ryan, don't you know this dealership and the entire track belongs to Leo? He could drive any car off this lot and no one would say a word. Seeing the unsurprised looks on my friends' faces, I gathered this wasn't the first time something like this had happened. Ryan's face turned beet red. So, what if you have money? He spat, his voice thick with resentment. All I smell is the stink of cash. You can put a man in a nice suit, but you can't change what's inside. Some people never learn the quiet confidence that comes with real wealth. It's not something you can be taught. They see money only as a tool for showing off, but class is something money can't buy. That's the difference between a wannabe and a real thing. I waved a dismissive hand. If there's a car here you like, I can give you a personal 50% discount. Another wave of laughter rippled through the group, and Ava, the girl who always used to rush to Ryan's defense, just stood there in silence, glaring at him with a look of pure disappointment. A strange feeling washed over me. It used to be that any time Ryan was picked on or laughed at, Ava would be the first to stand up for him. Now, she stood by coldly, watching him be ridiculed, completely unmoved. She looked at him with such disdain. Had she forgotten what she put me through for this man? The first time I saw Ava defend Ryan was in music appreciation class. Ryan's school back home was too small and underfunded for things like music. This was his first time in a class like this. The teacher called him up to sing a scale. He was completely off-key, and the whole class erupted in laughter. It wasn't surprising. He still had a thick country accent when he spoke English, let alone when he tried to sing. Hearing the laughter, Ryan's face burned with shame as he clutched the hem of his shirt. Ava shot up from her seat. Are your pitches so perfect? She challenged the class. You've just had a few more lessons than him. That's all. The room went silent. The teacher quickly intervened. Ryan can improve with practice. We should all be supportive of our classmates. After class, I saw Ava in the garden behind the school, patiently helping Ryan with the scales. He stared at her, his eyes filled with an unspoken emotion. The sunlight dappled through the leaves, illuminating their faces. They looked like a couple. I strode over and grabbed Ava's arm. What are you doing? She cried out in pain. He's not a child. I see that he doesn't need you holding his hand through everything. Stay away from him. Ava wrenched her arm free. I'm just helping a classmate. Leo, why are you being so cold? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm cold. In case you forgot, who's your boyfriend here? She looked at me like I was insane. Leo, are you crazy? What does helping a classmate have to do with us being a couple? I was the one who was crazy. Crazy to tolerate my own girlfriend getting this close to another guy and not even be allowed to get angry about it. It drove me nuts. Later during gym class, all the guys were playing basketball. Only Ryan stood alone in the corner. I smirked, grabbed the ball, and walked over to him. Want to play? He mumbled, I don't know how. No worries, I said with a friendly smile. You learn by doing. Give it a try. Seeing I wasn't trying to start anything, he nodded and stepped onto the court. But years of malnutrition had left him scrawny and weak. He was clumsy with the ball and ended up getting hit in the face with it. The other guys on the court howled with laughter. I stood over him, looking down as he clutched his bruised leg on the ground, sweat beading on his forehead. He bit his lip so hard it was turning white, his hair hiding his expression. Ava came running over. She knelt to check his leg, then stood up to face me, her eyes blazing with disgust. Do you get some sick pleasure out of bullying new students? This is straight up hazing. Leo, just because you have money doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. In front of everyone, she tore into me. You think you're better than him just because you were born into a better family. I was stunned into silence. Ava gently wiped the sweat from Ryan's forehead with a tissue. "I'll take you to the nurse's office," she said softly. He looked up at her like a lost puppy who had just found its owner. "Okay," he whispered. My friend Chris came up and slung an arm around my shoulder. "Is Ava insane? What's her deal with that guy? Did she forget you're her boyfriend?" I watched him walk away, her supporting his weight. Yeah, I thought she had to be insane. Why else would she have done all that? Thinking back on it now, her fierce determination to be with him seems laughable. Did it take her this long to regret it? How ironic. The more she insisted back then, the more pathetic it all looks now. A few days later, Chris and the guys asked me to go out for drinks. I had just gotten back and could use a night out, so I agreed. The bar was dark, the music a deep thrum in the background. Chris leaned in. "So, Leo, do you ever regret breaking up with Ava?" I gave him a weird look and glanced at his drink. "Are you that much of a lightweight now? You're drunk already. What are you talking about? Ava and I are ancient history. That chapter is closed." He lowered his voice to a whisper. "Dude, I think she regrets it. Nobody's told you this, but if you're still into her, I could help you out." I shoved him away playfully. "A good horse doesn't go back to old pastures, man. You know that." Chris got the message, but he leaned back in, hungry for gossip. "You have no idea how insane her wedding was. You know Ryan's from a rural town, right? We're not looking down on country folks. But who knew his family was so archaic?" My curiosity was piqued. How archaic can you get in the 21st century? You have no idea. To save face for Ryan, they had one ceremony back in his hometown. On the wedding day, they made the bride, Ava, sit in some kind of bamboo contraption for 5 hours before she was allowed to enter the house. And that's not all. The 5 hours was calculated based on their birth charts or something. The longer she sat, the more obedient she'd supposedly be as a wife. Ava threw a fit, obviously, but Ryan's parents wouldn't budge. Ryan begged her to just endure it for his sake, so they forced her to sit there for 5 whole hours. Only after his family was satisfied did they let her out. Her parents were furious. It even made the local news. Total humiliation. Too bad you were in London and missed it. I chuckled grimly. I remembered Ava kneeling in front of my parents, her voice ringing with conviction. "He's not like you people. I love his resilience, his drive, everything he has. He earned himself step by step. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth like you, looking down on the world, not knowing what real struggle is. He has this clean, pure quality that's completely different from the stench of money that follows you." I guess it didn't take long for Ryan to lose that clean, pure quality. Real struggle isn't as romantic as she thought. It was all just a self-serving rescue fantasy. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Then, as if summoned, Ava appeared at the bar. She swayed over to our table and greeted us casually, drinking without me. My friends suddenly had to use the restroom or make urgent calls, scattering in all directions. Ava laughed lightly and slid into the seat next to me. We must be fated to meet, even at a bar. I didn't look at her. There are only 2 bars I ever go to. You just happen to know that because we've known each other long enough. Her cheeks were flushed from drinking. She pouted. "Leo, do you have to be so cold to me?" I turned to look at her, my brow furrowing in annoyance at her tipsy state. "You're a married woman. It's not appropriate for you to be talking to another man like this in a place like this." Her expression faltered. "I know you're still mad at me, but you're not just anyone. Is this the new sophisticated way of propositioning someone for an affair? Was Ava seriously trying to make me your side piece?" The idea was so absurd, I almost laughed. My expression hardened. I had been trying to avoid a scene out of indifference, but now I felt it was necessary to draw a clear line. "Let's be clear," I said, my voice sharp. "We've known each other for a long time, but whatever friendship we had ended the day you called off our engagement and made my family the laughingstock of the city. We are nothing more than that." Ava suddenly lunged forward, collapsing into my arms. "Leo, do you have to be so cruel?" I laughed out of sheer disbelief and pushed her off me. "You don't know what Ryan is," she started. I cut her off. "I came here to have a drink with my friends, not to listen to your problems." I looked at her tear-streaked face without a shred of sympathy. "Besides," I added coldly, "isn't this what you chose? The person she had fought so hard for, creating a citywide scandal to marry. And now, after such a short time, she couldn't stand him. As for Ryan, did I not know what happens to a man who goes from having nothing to being draped in designer clothes? Please later." Ava claimed she was too drunk to get home and asked if I could drive her. I called her an Uber. The next day Ava called me as if nothing had happened. I was about to let out a string of curses when she said, "The high school is having a reunion and they're inviting you to attend." Not interested, I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. But then my old high school homeroom teacher sent me a message. He'd heard I was back and said I absolutely had to come to the reunion. I remembered how much he'd looked out for me in high school, and I couldn't bring myself to refuse. When I arrived at the school, I was surprised to see how many people from our class had shown up. My old teacher spotted me and greeted me warmly. "Leo, finally managed to track you down, you rascal." Ava was standing right behind me, watching my exchange with the teacher with a quiet smile. His sharp eyes landed on her next. He beckoned her over. Don't think I didn't know. He teased them both. You two were secretly dating behind my back all through high school. So, when am I getting an invitation to the wedding? Ava, far from being embarrassed, actually blushed. She glanced up at me shyly. Are you kidding me? I thought, but some things need to be shut down immediately to avoid misunderstandings. I cleared my throat and said in a joking tone, Now, Mr. Davidson, that's not right. Ava's already married. You can't be encouraging me to be a homewrecker. Mr. Davidson looked at me with a pained expression that screamed, No, really. I gave him a firm nod. Well, he stammered, who's the lucky guy who married our beautiful Ava? Ava's face was a mask of discomfort, clearly wanting to avoid the topic. I had no such reservations. You know him, actually. That only confused him more. I pointed toward the school gate. It's him. Mr. Davidson's brain seemed to be working, trying to place the face. Who is that? What class was he in? Unfortunately, the current Ryan looked nothing like the old one. He was almost unrecognizable. So, I kindly filled him in. You remember? It's Ryan Miller, from our class. No way, he blurted out. I nodded again. It seemed that in all the past reunions, Ava had never brought Ryan, probably afraid he'd embarrass her. Usually, the school only invited alumni who had distinguished themselves in some way. Ava was invited because her family's company, Hayes Corp, was a local institution. I was invited because my family's company was also well known and I had gained some minor fame from my racing career in Europe. We were meant to be success stories to inspire the current students. As for Ryan, he didn't come from a notable background, nor had he achieved anything significant since graduation. I wondered how he'd managed to get an invitation. Someone filled me in. Ryan had donated a large sum of money to the school. He was attending as a successful entrepreneur. Ryan saw us and walked over with a broad smile. It's amazing how many outstanding alumni our class produced. It just goes to show what a great teacher Mr. Davidson was. The flattery was so sudden that Mr. Davidson just stared at him momentarily, speechless. He clearly preferred the quiet, studious Ryan to this slick, schmoozing version. Just then, a man from the school's administrative office came running up to him. Excuse me, are you Ryan Miller? The CEO. Ryan nodded, beaming with pride. The administrator, catching his breath, explained, Sir, about the money you pledged to the school for the scholarship fund. A crowd of other alumni had gathered. Drawn by the commotion, Ryan was reveling in the attention. Yes, that's right. I want to do my small part to help kids with big dreams achieve their academic goals. A round of applause broke out. People were looking at him with newfound respect. The administrator continued, We believe that with your support, many more students will have the chance to pursue their education. Ryan patted his round belly, grinning from ear to ear. It's just, sir, the administrator said, his voice dropping. The check he gave us, the bank said that while the check itself is valid, it's missing the signature of an authorized person to actually release the funds. We were wondering if you could. The meaning was polite but clear. You wrote a check you're not authorized to write. Ryan's face went from white to red. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? He barked. Thanks to his grandstanding earlier, a sizable audience was now watching the drama unfold. Ava, standing beside me, muttered under her breath, embarrassing idiot still trying to put on a front. The administrator didn't want to offend a donor. He just stammered, That's truly what the bank told us. Perhaps you could just double-check. Seeing the administrator was on the verge of tears, I stepped forward. What kind of check did he write? He showed it to me. It was a Hayes Corporation check for $4,200. Wow, I didn't know he was so generous, not since it was a Hayes Corp check. All it needed was Ava's signature to be valid, and $200,000 was nothing to her. Before I could say anything, Ava strode over, took the check, and signed her name with a flourish. She handed it back to the administrator. You can cash it now. She shot a pointed look at Ryan. Just please have the donor's name changed to Hayes Corporation. Thank you. The administrator looked at Ava with immense gratitude before clutching the check and scurrying back to his office. Ava turned to Ryan, her voice like ice. Since when did you have the authority to write company checks? Ryan reached for her, but she recoiled. Honey, I was just trying to make you look good. His hands froze awkwardly in midair. If you just managed to not embarrass me, I'd be grateful. She snapped. Make me look good while I try to gild your own lily. Whispers and snickers rippled through the crowd. You know, he's that scholarship kid who latched onto the Hayes Aries TSK. TSK thinks a new suit makes him a new man. You could put him in a king's robes and he still wouldn't look like royalty. And I used to think he was so inspiring, trying to study his way out of poverty. Turns out he just took a shortcut and married a rich girl. If you're going to be a kept man, at least have the decency to be a quiet one. Ryan stood frozen, just as lost and humiliated as he'd been in high school. But back then, he at least had a backbone, a fierce desire to change his life through hard work. Now he was just a piece of gossip, a gold digger. Ava, hearing the insults, turned her fury on him. There's nothing for you here. Why don't you just go home? Ava walked up to me, her chin held high. She looked me in the eye and gave a self-deprecating laugh. In front of everyone, she asked, "If I had married you back then, things would be completely different, wouldn't they?" The crowd of gossiping alumni, who had just been about to disperse, stopped in their tracks, their eyes wide with anticipation. Some of them knew that Ava and I had been a couple, and among them was Ryan, who hadn't left. He stood rooted to the spot, his hands clenched into fists. Watching us, I just shook my head softly. "That's all in the past, Ava, I'll let it go. You should too." She grabbed my arm, refusing to let me leave. "What if I say I can't?" It was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Everyone was waiting for my answer. Before I could say a word, Ryan lunged forward. He slapped Ava across the face. "Hard you," he screamed, flirting with another man right in front of me. Ava stood there, stunned, a red handprint blooming on her cheek. As Ryan raised his hand for his second blow, I glanced at Ava, who was still in shock. I stepped in front of her and caught his wrist. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Ryan dropped all pretense. "I'm dealing with my wife. This is between us. What's a guy to do with an outsider like you? She's your wife, not your punching bag," I said, my voice low and dangerous. He sneered at me. "What? You feel sorry for your little mistress? She's cheating on me, and I can't even discipline her." "Watch your mouth," I warned. "Don't make baseless accusations." "My mouth isn't clean. Are the two of you clean?" People in the crowd started to intervene. "You can't hit your wife. Can't you talk things out? What kind of man hits a woman? He lives off his wife and then beats her. That guy is trash." Ryan, his eyes bloodshot, roared at the crowd. "Shut up." The argument only ended when security finally arrived and dragged him away. Even in the quiet of the nurse's office, Ava was still in shock, trembling uncontrollably. Her face was a canvas of disbelief, tears still clinging to her lashes. I could understand it. We were both raised by loving parents. We'd never even been spoken to harshly, let alone been hit. Ryan's slap was something from another world, a violation of everything we knew. Looking at her, I shook my head. I had the school nurse apply some cream to the swelling on her face, then handed her a cool damp towel. Ava grabbed my hand, her voice a frightened whisper. "Leo," I patted her hand gently. "It's okay." Security took him away. "You're safe here." She gave a numb nod, then looked at me. "Thank you." And with that, the dam broke. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing hysterically. "Leo, I regret it. I regret it so much. He's not a good person. He's not good at all." I sighed silently, my body rigid, not daring to move. Ryan's quiet pride had been a product of his small-town origins. His world was small, his experiences limited. Once he was thrown into the big city with money and power at his fingertips, was it any surprise he lost himself to indulgence? Through her sobs, Ava asked Leo, "If I told you I still love you, would you still marry me?" I frowned, gently disentangling myself from her embrace. I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Ava, I have a fiancé." I came back to introduce her to my parents. Her flight was just delayed by a few days. Ava stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "No, that's impossible. How could you love someone else? You're supposed to love me." My expression softened, but not for her. "No one waits forever, Ava. I told you a long time ago that we were over. You just didn't want to believe it." She deflated like a popped balloon. "What's she like?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. A fond smile touched my lips. "She's a bit of a Her head is always filled with the most wonderfully strange ideas. She's the kind of person you can't help but want to tease." Seeing the look on my face, the light in Ava's eyes flickered and died. Finally, she just said, "Congratulations." "Thank you," I replied. When we left the nurse's office, we found Ryan lurking suspiciously by Ava's car. The moment he saw her, he rushed forward. Ava flinched and ducked behind me. But when Ryan was still a few feet away, he dropped to his knees. "Honey, I was wrong," he pleaded, his face a mess of tears. "I lost my temper. I shouldn't have hit you. It's just because I love you so much. I couldn't stand seeing you so close to another man." Ava seemed to relax slightly. She stepped out from behind me and faced him. "I should have known from the beginning. We were a mistake." Ryan started slapping his own face over and over. "I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'll never do it again. I swear." "Don't bother," Ava said, her voice empty. "We're not right for each other. Let's just let each other go." Without another word, she turned and walked away. Seeing her resolve, Ryan collapsed onto the pavement. His desperate eyes found me, and he crawled over, trying to grab my leg. "Please talk to her for me. Say something." I looked down at him. "You're asking the wrong person. I don't have that kind of influence." He clung to the idea like a drowning man. "You do? She loves you. She'll listen to you. If you don't help me, she'll divorce me, and I'll have nothing." I looked at this pathetic man I barely recognized. There was a time when I had a sliver of respect for him. Despite his circumstances, he had a drive to learn, and that was admirable. But now, I told Ava from the beginning that you two wouldn't work. You come from different worlds. But she was determined to be with you. You were lucky. You were brilliant. If you had just focused on bettering yourself, on your studies, you wouldn't have ended up here. But you got comfortable. You gave up on your own potential and got lost in showing off with money you didn't earn. Ryan looked up at me, his eyes blank. So, what do I do now? I almost laughed. How should I know? And more importantly, why should I care? I'd only said my piece because for a brief time, we had been classmates. Later, I heard Ava filed for divorce, demanding that Ryan walk away with nothing. He refused, of course, and they were tied up in a messy legal battle for a long time. The whole affair became a favorite topic of gossip in our social circle for months, but none of it had anything to do with me anymore. I looked at the woman standing beside me, radiant in her wedding dress. I pulled her close and whispered, "You look beautiful today." My fiancée blushed. Ava came to my wedding. She had a new boyfriend, some guy she met who'd also studied abroad. Everyone was laughing, glasses clinking, conversation flowing. No one looked out of place. I took my fiancée's hand, and together we walked through the crowd of guests, toward the stage where we would start our life.